Great. Thanks for joining us today in our session, Innovative Resilience, the Legacy of the Tokyo Olympics. We have three wonderful guests today, and I hope you ask some questions after our session because it tends to be quiet in some of these sessions, especially Tamiyaki-san. Please ask a question. Great. So let's kick off with should I call you Hioki or Takayuki or okay? I call you Hioki all the time. So Hioki, how are you involved with the Tokyo Olympics, and afterwards, how would you summarize or judge the Olympics in such a difficult circumstances?
Thank you, Sumi. Should I call Sumi?
Yes, please.
As all time, get a nickname. So thank you very much for introducing me. I started my career in Tokyo 2020 since our 2015 in handover and Rio flag handover things. And after that, I was in charge of the opening closing ceremony on Olympic and Paralympic. Then I took executive producer's job and also deputy chief ceremony officer. And my job was kind of, to manage the events and the, control budget and, assigning the people. And also the communication with the IOC, OBS, and IPC, and also like Japanese government sometimes. So it's a pretty amazing opportunity for me. And the tougher thing is like like a COVID-19 situation. So I'm gonna talk later.
Which one?
Okay. Yeah. That's like a crazy journey and postponement and lots of things happening right before the opening ceremony. So everybody knows it. So that was kind of a roller coaster. So, as I make a long story short, it was the most toughest experience in my life.
Like, obviously the opening ceremonies was kind of in the spotlight throughout the last maybe 3 or 4 months. But in hindsight, the 3 other ceremonies that you were involved in, what went wonderful. What was actually behind the scenes? What was actually happening behind the scenes?
And that's it's a good question actually. So running the 4 events in 4 ceremony in one people and one core team is kind of crazy things. And Olympic is the opening ceremony is the toughest one because lots of attentions and lots of wishes and something politics and the things in the Japanese way, So this is the toughest part, and I was joking like it's kind of like the nabe, chanko nabe. So everything is putting in everything. It's a lots of like, hey, you want to put this and you want to put this. It's kind of like we just kind of mash up and things, and then it need to be taste good. So this is a very tough things, and then thanks to the opening ceremony, other 3 events is very kind of easy for us because lots of attention is on the opening ceremony. So other 3 is like kind of behind the wall. So actually, especially like a Paralympics, so we can do what we want to do, and a very strong message, and Paralympic always has it. And like with a 15 campaign, diversity and inclusion. So it's really kind of straightforward for us. So, and also the Olympic closing was really tough because the condition of the venue is really, we don't have time to do the rehearsal. Still on the tarp on the floor. We have only a few hours to install the like cauldron, like a seika die. So it's a very physically it's very difficult. Then usually like the closing ceremony Olympic was just concert, music concert, because one stage and dancer and singers. But we did a challenge to have more kind of storytelling closing ceremony. So it's each event has a different like the challenges and a theme. So that was a crazy days.
Wow, let's talk about
Hiromi knows a lot. So.
Let's move on to Hiromi. So Hiromi, what role did you play at the Olympics?
Thank you, Sumi. I have working for the Olympic Games for it's like almost the same length with Hioki-san for since 2014, about 7 years. So I had 5 positions. The public a public relations secretary and the senior director for the executive office, and also the international affairs and the torch relay and ceremonies.
She's all behind the scenes.
Ah,
Yeah, and the experience is just surviving. And I traveled the 47 prefectures with the Olympic flame, and also the brought the Olympic flame from the Athens. It was the most difficult and severe situation in the world, because the Greece had shutting down, and the international travelers could not enter the Greece, and the international flight had been canceled the 2 days before our departure. So we are seeking for how to bring back the Olympic flame to the Japan. So it was I thought it was the last challenge. It was the last one. So many last one, they're facing their, it was. And also when I brought back the Olympic flame to Japan, and the game is postponed. So I faced how to deal with Olympic frame until the over 1 year. So yeah.
it was at your house?
Yeah. Not really. So it was, there are so many difficulties and challenges, but we did it, we done and survived.
So the first time the Flames arrived into Japan was actually in 2020, May or April or somewhere around there?
It's March.
March. So right when the pandemic started.
Yeah, they started from, the Olympic Tokyo, they started there just, 1 year later. So we secured the Olympic flame 1 year.
Well, it's maybe a big trade secret, but where was the tour? Where was the Flames kind of preserved?
It's very secret place, but the thing is, not my house. But the funny thing is, it's not a joke. It's the fire department helped us.
Wow.
Could you believe the fire department? Usually their original mission is distinguish this is a fire, but they try to keep preserve the flame on the 24 days and 24 hours and 70 days and 365. But they advised us how to deal with the flame.
Wow, that's a big behind the scene kind of trade secret that we didn't even think about. But the actual torch relay going across the 47 prefectures, it must have been tough. I mean, we were seeing that in the media, it was under fire and that there was getting negative publicity. But you were on the ground with the torch going around Japan. Any feelings for the torch relay?
Yeah, what I want to say is it's totally different from the image and atmosphere on site. I think the G1, the members, some G1 members around with a flame. The atmosphere, totally different from the image on from the media. The people are happy with it. As a staff, I was on site. I was not confident with why we do it on site in India. But when I went to their on site in the Olympic Tokyo, people have been waiting for the flame has come. It's the magic moment. And about the 400 staffs traveled together, but zero cluster. And they're positive inside the organizing committee's member. So people are very diligent and people recognize the risk for, impacted on their games.
Thank you. So David, I know you're a seasoned veteran in the global sporting scene. Were you involved with the Olympics in some way or another?
So with the Olympics for Tokyo, before the Olympics, I was going to be working with different National Olympic committees to do hospitality houses. But unfortunately, in the COVID world, the hospitalities weren't available this time. In the past, I've worked with an organizing committee. I've been part of a delegation in the Olympics. I've been a sponsor, part of a sponsor team in the Olympics, and so I've had a lot of experience with them. But with Tokyo was unfortunately COVID.
Yeah.
COVID kept me away.
Yeah, and from your point of view as a third party, right, looking from the outside, how is the performance of the Olympics as a host city, as an Olympic committee?
So fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, for the panelists here, for everybody who worked in TOCOG, the work that the organizing committee did was stupendous. It was a difficult situation. When you're trying to organize something like Olympics, you try to get rid of chaos. You try to get rid of problems and, get rid of, what's going to come up. But they're every day faced with a different situation, and they did a wonderful job. Personally, I can't say enough about how good TOCOG was. My feeling about the IOC is not the same.
It's changed a little bit.
It's a little bit different, but my feeling about TOCOG, they did a fantastic job.
I see. I used to run a baseball team, and we used to have 25,000 people in one stadium for 3 hours, and every minute there would be some kind of trouble. But listening to the two of them talk about their situations, it must have been simultaneous, events or troubles or accidents happening at once, and
hats off everybody. I just give them the hand of applause. I mean, they really did a good job. It's like,
and to move forward a little bit, Hioki, what did the Olympics mean for maybe Tokyo, Japan, and the world moving forward? Any moments or any situations that you feel had an impact on future Olympics or even future sporting events globally?
I mean, I always think about in the value of an Olympic is the size of the countries joining the event, and also the very strong message we can send to the world. So especially this case is it's maybe the first time in the history everybody globally had the same issue at the same time, and so it was perfect timing to set the agenda for the next 4 years for the next events and Olympic Games. So I was keep saying to even the IOC and IPC that I mean, so Olympic value is not only for the sports, but also we can change the world and then solving the global issues. This is the most important things for Olympic Games. So I think for this case in Tokyo, we set a united by emotion, and also the diversity and inclusion is pretty important message for us. So this is a perfect message to send it out to that kind of situation. So this is pretty important. And then Rio, back to the Rio, they said sustainability. So the most important thing is what we're gonna do after the Olympic Games or after the Paralympic Games, how to deliver that message and how to execute that the agenda for the next 4 years and 3 years before maybe. Then we have to evaluate and assess in maybe Paris in the next time. And Paris will have another agenda for the European the border things, and maybe USA. I mean, the Los Angeles will have the multi races or something poverty and the richness balance and things. So each country has a different agenda. So I think that's the most important thing is to deliver the message, deliver the agenda, and all the NOC. I mean, our National Olympic Committee and also the sponsors and International Federation will, set the tone and then do the same things and then set that an agenda. And then solving the problem is the most important thing. So I think Olympic itself is stop point, and we need to take action afterwards. So now is the time to maybe move things forward. That's what I think.
Were there any lasting benefits from the games that specifically that you felt that can be used for the future Olympics?
You have anything?
Well, I'm involved in the technology side of sport, and there was great new things in Tokyo. I don't know how many people know this, but Tokyo was the 1964 Tokyo Olympics was the first Olympic Games to be shown by satellite. And at the time, that was a new technology, broadcasting live around the world. It was the first time it happened. So first done with the Olympics. And then the next big one was like from the moon, right? Like 4 years later. And so that's really, but this Tokyo Olympics in 2020 games, all of the broadcast was done on the cloud. So there wasn't anything by satellites anymore. And it was a fundamental change in the way the broadcast was made. And it allowed to produce more material. So there were more things to show the world. It allowed to have fewer people in the venues. So now engineers could work from home. They could work from different cities. They could access everything with their computers. All the programming could be put together remotely. And this is the first time it's been done like this. And I think the footprint of the TV crew was probably reduced in Tokyo by 30 or 35%. Fewer people were done, but there was a huge increase in the amount of material produced. So this technology change, this is a fundamental technology change, and it's going to allow all kinds of sports organizations and all kinds of things around the world. Now, cost of production is going to get much lower. It's going to be easier for teams, for leagues, for sports to get their message out to the world because of this new technology that was really started in Tokyo.
Do you think there'll be a bigger plus for advertisers or hosts, organizers, athletes?
Actually, I think the biggest plus is going to come to the long tail of sports, because the Olympic gets enough attention anyway. It doesn't matter if if we send it by smoke signals or anything, it gets a lot of attention. But the longer tail of sports, it's hard to find sponsors. It's hard to get people to come. And so these technological changes now make it easier for smaller sports, in a smaller area of geographically, or a smaller population of players. Then now it's easier for them to produce video, easier for them to find sponsors, to find new fans. And so that's really the long tail will benefit from this new technology.
So the Olympics was one huge experiment for the entire sporting community globally.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It's a start point. Okay, it worked at the Olympics. It's got to be good. It's going to work for us too, and everyone can follow, because it's a big push to make that change. It's really hard. It's not easy, and you can't do it for a little tiny event. You can do it for the Olympics because everyone's trying to do something new, but then the smaller events can take advantage of it. So it really has a strong legacy going forward on the tech side as well.
Hioki, any new technologies in the ceremonies that you're involved in that you found interesting?
That's a good question. I mean, so we did kind of like a remote, kind of live interactions on the screen and remote screens for like globally. We sent like the tweeters, and we walk with a tweeter, and we can get like a global message at the same time, like kind of live streaming. And the other one is a drone. Maybe people can remember that kind of drone technologies. Like we use like more than 2,000 drones at the same time. Usually a drone is kind of wall, like in two dimension, but we use like a 3 dimension. It's like, that's the thing. So the drone technology it's kind of very unique way. And what else we have? Kind of a lot of like, back-end technologies, behind the scene technologies, like, it's like the packets I mentioned, like more remote and more kind of cloud-based production was going on. So.
Hiromi, you're back at the government, but I'm sure you had a lot of governmental kind of exposure, at your role, the Olympic Committee. But what did these Olympics mean for Japan from your point of view?
Right. So sorry for the continuing the conversation about the
No.
benefit of the Tokyo 2020. So the thing is we realized, before the COVID-19, the IOC, the assemblies, IOC executives, they are travel a lot to Japan, just watching and just checking their progress. But the reality is the organizing committee costs a lot. It costs a lot, and the burden, the human resource preparing for the welcoming their IOC executive members.
Going to Hiroshima.
but so the thing is the back office, we wanna do the really, the preparing for the games and preparing for the Olympic torch relay. So the thing is because of thanks for the benefit of the COVID-19 pandemic and travel restrictions, so they could not come back. They could not come back. We can, connect this through the TV conference system, and also that we show the site preparations through through the video, and also in real time. So they can do the virtual site tour, even though they are sitting there, they are living in the countries. And also the last thing is usually the IOC staffs came to the Olympic torch relay and preparing for and also indicating the one by one the on-site operation to the organizing committee, but no one came. No one came. Yeah. Just in the last moment they came. Oh wow, that's what's great. So we could make it. The thing is the Japan has so many expertise and so many expert for the sports event, and they learned a lot, and the IOC staff transfer so many knowledges, experience, because they could not come to Japan. So we thanks for the games, we have so many expertise and expert.
Do you want to be involved in another Olympics?
Everybody asking me about it, but now I need a break.
Maybe Sapporo 2030, right? Hiroki, how about yourself? Yeah.
She's going to be like CEO, and I'm going to maybe COO. just kidding. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, like David mentioned, it must have been, some hard things going on throughout the 4, 5, or 6 years. Hiromi, I visited you in Busan at the IOC 6-7 years ago, right? When you were preparing for your role with the Olympic Committee here. So, again, big applause to both of you on that. David, you spoke a little bit about the technology side with the cloud broadcasting capabilities now in play. Anything, introduce yourself. You do a lot of sports technology business, right? And how is technology changing sports? Not just the Olympics.
Not just the Olympics. Okay, so just a quick introduction. So I'm a partner in a company called Mindspring Capital, and what we do is we look for young tech companies that have tech for sports. And when we say sports tech, we mean things that can be used in a stadium. So it can be broadcast technology, it can be ticketing, it can be marketing technology, it can be all kinds of technology that can be used by clubs for training. Many kinds of things is really what we're looking in. And so I think in the last year and a half, we've probably vetted more than 400 companies and to see what they're doing. And from the 400, so far we've selected 8 that we're going to invest in. So it's you go through a big process. And so, that's my background on the tech side. And what I see with the tech for sports is that a little bit about what I was saying with the Olympics is that the technology is moving so that it's now easier for the longer tail of sports to have access, and particularly access to videos, to making videos, to reach a larger audience. It's now getting easier for managers and coaches to access technology to help them with training. And so there's a lot of institutional knowledge that used to just live inside people that now can be shared through the technology. And it helps the smaller organizations because they don't have the money to buy those expensive people. And so with technology, they can access that knowledge. And that's really what's going on in the tech side of sport. It's making sports more democratic and easier to be a good producer of a good game, of a good show, of finding new fans.
Are there any like particular trends that you see interesting with the advancements of technology, spreading around the world?
Well, actually, Hyoki and I were talking about this before the panel, but it's about automated production capability for broadcasting. So being able to just set up a camera and have somebody sitting at home, do the editing, do the commentary, put in graphics, and also allowing, and this is an important part, is allowing people to make a business out of it. So there's the technology for making an advertising marketplace as well. And so you can collect advertisers and put advertising on the package as well, on the program as well. And so, it's not everybody. We used to work at an ad agency. Not everybody likes to see ads, but they pay for a lot of stuff. And so, it makes it possible for the team to exist. It makes it possible to do this sport. It makes it possible for people to pay. And so giving teams, giving small clubs access to sponsors, access to advertisers is really a good thing for them.
Great. Hyoki, how about yourself? Any interesting trends that you see in the sporting industry recently?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, especially in Japan, like, we are kind of way behind. I think it's a lot of the new technology, and in these days, I'm kind of checking like a sports betting. I think this is going to be the huge and also the data driven business. So, like the US kind of opened the kind of new laws. I mean, betting laws in like state by state. So that's gives a huge opportunity for the sports industry to get more money, including like the second tier, third tier sports. So that's a huge, and we call it like watch and bet. Watch the games, and then the watch the games is exactly the Hackett-san mentioned. Like we have a kind of smart production and a cheaper cost and more chance to like the minor leagues or the second tier sports to monetize the business, and also the data will help you to sell the third party. So for example, like even me if I am a player, so my data, my information would be the sellable with the blockchain technology potentially in the future. So that's directly connected to the sports betting for sure. And I'm actually running the broadcasting company for the smart technologies. We broadcast like 2,000 games a year for the live streaming. So the watch side, also the data side, and also the betting side is going to be in one line. The change in all the sports industry. So that's potentially will happen within a few years, I think.
Hiromi, any interesting trends at the Olympics that may impact future Olympic Games that you thought were interesting?
So one of my friends working inside Paris 2024, they said like, the power balance with the IOC have been totally changed after the Tokyo Games, because, their organizing committee got so much knowledge and experience on site, the more than the IOC staff. So the Tokyo Games driven by their organizing committee actually. So the Paris 2024 now, they're not negotiating, just they're discussing with the IOC staffs to make to drive their own the games.
It's France.
Yeah, it's France, but it's France. But the thing, the mindset, they happen inside the IOC stuff. So they would play, this is very confidential, but from my the impression, the working my experience working inside the IOC, IOC stuff is much top hierarchy. Like it's a goal of is if you are working inside the organizing committee, after that the people would like to working for the IOC inside, but it's like the thing is at this moment the IOC people would like to working inside the organizing committee because they realize the situations their natural situations and the political situation has nobody can expect. But we realize the next future Olympic Games driven by the organizing committee. So the thing is I realized much fun the working inside the organizing committee.
On the ground.
Yeah, on the ground.
Any one piece of advice you would give to the IOC today? Since you're part of the organizing committee, what would be one piece of advice? Hioki, anything for the IOC? Oh, nothing on the record. What would you have done differently? Maybe I'll frame the question a little bit differently. If you could go back 1 year, in time, what would you have done differently, Hiromi?
So we need to, to have more confidence with the games. Like, the sport, we need sports. Even though they're, under the pandemic situation, the thing is people need something to feel the hope, the something like, feeling like a future. I know it's the ideally, ideally think, we should not compare it with their, the value of sports with the value of life. It's the important as the same as, they do have a same value. So the thing is it's just, we need to, we should have more confidence with delivering their sports.
Great. Hioki, like if you could go back 1 year, what would you tell yourself or tell IOC or tell the organizing committee? What would you?
Just kidding. Just kidding. I mean, that's a Hiromi mentioned is very good points. I mean, we should have a confidence in the time is the postponement, because like a lot of kind of discussion is kind of whether we need the Olympic or not, Paralympic or not. But the point is that we need the sports and also the art in any time, like especially like that kind of circumstance, because the value of the sport is to give more kind of like a volatility of the emotions, like like we in Japanese like kido airaku. It means like joy, joyful, and like a pleasure, anger, and also grief or something like that. So why we are kind of human being is like we have the emotional kind of up and down. That gives more like a values of your life, and especially like that kind of like a flat feeling. The people has to be in the house, but has to be be quiet. Has to be quiet. But like art and sports is kind of different. So we need to have like we shouldn't stop it, and because that's the human being, right? And I think no one talks about like the value of the sports so much, but the people start talking about like safety. That's very important anyways, but that's to make the human being different from others. Like we cannot stay in a room and forever. We have to meet the people, so we have to move, we have to emotionally, ups and downs, have to have it. So that's very important things. So even like a wartime, that's also like the army, and then immediately has the band members and the singers, and the art should be there. Is there maybe some like pianist, the movies like that. So the art and the sports is pretty important, especially like that kind of circumstances.
What role will sports play in the global community going forward post-COVID?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure the role will change. United Nations recognizes sports as a human right. The access to sport is a human right, and the idea that it's such an important part of what Hioki was just saying, and what we're just talking about now. It's such an important part of being human, and it gives you hope. It gives you something to work for. When you're a kid, it teaches you about rules and following rules of society, because the umpire tells you yes or no, and then and so you learn how to socialize. You learn how to follow rules. You learn how to work with other people. It has all these great things, and as entertainment. I mean, I look at media, and media covers business, it covers politics, and it covers sports. And people seem to need those things in their life to, that makes them whole. And so I don't think the role of sports will change. It will just continue, and it will just continue on.
just talking about the Olympics, I'm sure there were many, many moments where, the Olympics could be postponed. And, but we went through with it, whether people liked it or not. Obviously that decision, if that lied with the Japanese government, I think it might have been postponed. But I think the IOC had a very strong commitment to hosting the games, right? As a person looking from the outside, right, with the Tokyo Olympics, do you think that was the right decision?
Me, what would I have done? I think I would have had the games. I think I would have had them a little bit later. I think I would have tried to target them about now. There are many factors that make it really hard to do that. There's all kinds of reasons that to use the same schedule as before, but ideally I would have waited a little bit longer.
I'm not going to ask these two the same question, but we can talk about it, right, Dave? But I think it was a difficult decision, but I think it was the right decision, yeah. So Hioki, what did the Olympics mean for you? To wrap up our small conversation.
Thank you. I mean, well, I haven't digested yet, but I mean, after the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, I make myself busy and to avoid think about kind of deeply, because I didn't even check the videos yet. So I just kind of try to make myself busy to think about other things like rugby and other sports. But I mean, this is maybe a little bit too early to talk about, because still situation is not completely solved, and then the mental position in everybody is not like normal still. So I mean, I need another maybe 6 months or something. Then I look back in kind of years, and then what we did for like this year and last year. So but this was the very important events, and give us more the value to the words, like especially like a diversity and inclusions, and also after the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, lots of people looks happy. That's the result, and this is the same as I mentioned, like the value of the sports and the value of the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. And as Hiromi mentioned, we had a lot of confidence about like delivering the global scale events. So that's the kind of legacy, intangible legacy for us. Yeah.
And Hiromi, for you, what did the Olympics mean for you?
Yeah, there are 7 years, a lot.
That is a long time.
It was a lot to me, impacted on my life and impacted on my, what's the meaning? What's the meaning to me for the working? I worked inside the organizing committee and also the IOC inside. The thing is, I have been working inside the government, so I was communicating in like a governmental languages, and I don't have any difficulties to communicate to with each other among the staff. But the outside the government, I realized how difficult it is to communicate with the private sector people and also the sponsors, and also
we feel the same way with you.
Yeah,
too.
right. The going back to the ministry, I saw the papers, the governmental document, how difficult it is to me. It's complicated. What's the point? And what's the, it is, very, I am now, now I starting the working inside the government again. And I, write the every document for to the publicities, because we need to be more think about the people on site, and also the how what's the benefit for the society. I am working for the public sector, and the sports event of the Olympic Games is much more public the asset. So the how to deliver, how to the tell about the value of the public event to the society. So it means a lot the through the Olympic Games.
It must have been a deep experience for you and your career as well. David, for you, what did the Tokyo Olympics mean for you overall? Yeah, personally, yeah.
Personally,
Any new feelings, hope, changes?
yeah, I'm trying. Actually, I'm a little bit, I wasn't involved in it every day, but I'm still kind of, still adjusting a little bit and trying to come up with what it really was. And, I mentioned before, I would have preferred that the postponement had been a little bit longer. I feel like there was a missed opportunity that it could have been used as a stronger message of, we have this great organization, let's help us get rid of this COVID problem first, and then we'll work on the Olympics. Might have been was an opportunity that could have been lost. But Olympics to me, perseverance wins, is really the message from Tokyo. Everything thrown at the organizing committee. There was no stability. Are we going to do it? Yes or no? When are we going to do it? We don't know. Are we people coming? Who knows? Are all the countries going to be able to join? We don't know. And so in a world of complete chaos, they were able to pull off something that was really fantastic. And that idea that perseverance wins is really the meaning for me.
Thank you so much. Let's move to Q&A. Tamiyaki-san obviously has the first question. He had 40 minutes to prepare.
Thank you. Thank you for your stories. My question is about Olympic legacy. Before event, we talked about this is not only about sports, but also like society, economy, and maybe next generation. And we called it like legacy. So in your opinion, what's the legacy we have right now? Actual Olympic legacy is?
Yeah, let's answer this question and then get multiple questions afterwards. Hiyoki or Hiromi, you want to answer that question?
So I think it's, the Olympic agenda. So they said like, the targeting of the games in the 2020 is the social resilience in the meaning of the economically, financially. When we faced the difficulties, like, I don't know, they expecting the infections or pandemic, but, we face like, the difficulties in the society, but we overcome, so, that we can deliver the sports event in any situations, even though facing like a financial, difficulties and the social, their difficulties. I think the Japan receiving, Japan can, achieve their social resilience, like, through the sports, in fields of the sports. So people know about, like, David say, like, the sports is their human's light. And the people know about we should not compare the value of the life with the value of their culture or sports and, any other, the human's light. So I think, the most, most Tokyo Olympic Games, the legacy is the social resilience. People feel like, Olympic Games remains, will continue in the, the Beijing and the Paris and the Los Angeles in the future.
Great answer. Thank you. Let's go to the next question. And anyone have other questions? We'll take a couple questions at once. Please.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a comment and a question, I guess. I served on the working group for sustainability, human rights, diversity, and also gender equality for 4 years on the Tokyo Olympic Committee as well in the working groups. And during the course of that, there was so much discussion of legacy. And I think that sometimes these games should be famous and known as the games that blindsided the organizers in every way possible, every which way possible, whether it be comments about gender equality, whether it be surprises about people who were involved who had past histories that were not in keeping with the legacy of diversity. But in the end, what is so impressive to me is that the Olympic Organizing Committee came through with a games that was seen as the most inclusive games ever held in history. If you look at the venues, if you look at the responses to all of those blindsiding impacts, it's really, really amazing when you talk about resilience, how the committee responded and rose to the challenge and still, persevered and pulled it through and was able to come across with this amazing reputation for having recognized and been inclusive and been accepting of diversity. I wish that everyone could see behind the scenes with the working groups, all of the roundtables with Muslim communities, with marriage equality, gender advocates, just the background work on being inclusive, because I do believe that in Japan, there were blinkers on about how non-inclusive this society can be. And I think that really, I really hope that that's a legacy that the organizers realize has come through with just really a bright shining color. And I hope it can be carried on. So I guess I would like to ask the other members of the panel, I'm sorry, I missed the earlier part of your discussion, but did that come across, that inclusiveness, that will to be inclusive in these games?
So Hioki, you were most blindsided with some of the these accidents or incidents. Any answers on the question?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you very much for your question. It's really appreciated. That's one. Yeah, that's I mean, as everybody knows, but in the process to deliver the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, lots of mess happen. Like that's like about me or something like, or me like the people changing. So it's kind of war. Like, I mean, yeah, that's true. And ultimately, we went the right direction because, as you mentioned, like the things changing at the last minute. And then even I feel like, I mean, like a speech of Hashimoto, the president, it looks so beautiful. I mean, this is the kind of way, she's on a podium going to talk about the Olympic values and then appreciation to the South. I think like, wow, this is beautiful things. And even my teams in, the ceremony, I took over more than things happen after things happen. And it wasn't the intention, but it's automatically like, the gender equality and the multi kind of age groups, like it's come to around me. So that's very easy for me. And it's more kind of like the visions I have. So it gives lots of different angles and ideas and more kind of open-minded discussion. And like me is I'm 46 and, then the before that's me, like, like 70 years old, like the old people, but it suddenly goes like 20, 30 years younger. And I'm deputy chief of the ceremony officers. Like before me is like 72 years old, like that, Then even the creative team is like 20 years and 30 years younger than that. And the head of the choreographer is like 35 years old. Like a head of the video production is 25 years old, something like that. So that gives more chance to the younger generation, and then not just male. So that's give a lot of chance and experience to the younger generation. That's impact on like 20 years later, I think. So that's very important. Like you see, like other organizing committee, Paris like 40 years old, like like a Tom, and then Keshi Wasserman in Los Angeles is like when he joined, it's 42 years old or something. So that's a normal in the global level, like So I hope that Japan is get a little bit like closer to the global standard. So that's a huge legacy for us, I think.
Thanks for your wonderful comment. Any other questions?
Thank you. So being an expat, I don't have the same sentiment as you are, or pride in being the host city. So to me, it actually felt that the Olympics just came and go, perhaps forgettable to some extent. So in your honest opinion, do you think that being the host city was actually worth it? And was Japan actually able to recoup the expenses? That's all.
Yoki, you want to try?
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments. I'm sorry I keep talking. And then that's very important question. This is one of the legacy that we have now. I think that's even the Hiromi mentioned IOC, the position is a little bit different now. And us feel like more kind of like a responsibility to run the Olympic Games, but also we didn't talk about like sponsors and partners. That's a very important part of the stakeholder. And now I think it's a lot of like stakeholders that think about like a different way to how to build the Olympic Games. And even the IOC has to think about like the relationship with the host city and also the sponsors. So sponsors need more values to pay money to the events. Now it's just like banners and just like a promotional opportunity. But like as I mentioned earlier before, like a first session, the questions, like we have to solve the social issue together using the sponsor as a leverage to deliver the new opportunity to the world. For example, Coca-Cola, everybody knows the name of the Coca-Cola. Everybody knows they have the sugars and the soda, right? But the most important thing is that they have the powers to network at a global level. So they are the ones to have the powers to change the world. They're using sports and Olympic Games as a leverage to make the world better. So sponsors has to be greedy to be more positive and more proactively communicate with the IOC and all the ordinance committee. What's your values? What's your agenda for the next 4 years? Then they spend the money for the new agenda or new direction. For example, like how can I say sustainability. Coca-Cola will be the one of the most important parts. We use the 100% for the like recycled cans. And if, for example, like ASICS or like, sponsors will have the 100% recycled uniform. That's the kind of agenda setting for the next like 4 years. And also that's the impact on the International Federation. That's the impact on the National Olympic Committee. So need to be more kind of like a visions and kind of missions of the Olympic is important. Otherwise, as you mentioned earlier, like, it's always a negative part of, the kind of old style. So I say like the first Olympic is like a modern Olympic is the games. And the second one's on after the 1984 is more like a commercializing. Now it's going to be going to more like kind of visions and like kind of futuristic ideas and problem solving Olympic Games is the most important things for the next step. So even if I were sponsors, I don't want to pay any money for the next one unless we have the very clear visions on Olympic Games and the host city. So that's my idea.
David, you want to tackle this question? I think it's an important question.
That's a really good question, and it's a really important question. Was it worth it? And it's hard to say absolutely yes, right? It's hard to say absolutely yes. So what's the problem? And something Hyoki was just saying is that Olympics are really in a transition, and IOC recently has had problems getting cities wanting to do the Olympics. Fewer and fewer cities are raising their hands, and so it has to change. And so this might actually be a legacy of Tokyo, that it becomes, this could be an Olympic that caused this could be the Olympics that caused the games to change. So again, Los Angeles made it more commercial in 1984. Tokyo in 2020 may make it more sustainable in the future, and to make it a little more compact, to make it a less impact on the city, on its finances and things like that. That's going to be a real, that's the homework for the IOC to solve. They really have to take care of this question to make it possible for the next cities.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. And any more questions? Maybe we'll take one more. No? Going once, going twice? Great, thank you.
So firstly, thank you for having and holding Olympic. I'm proud of you guys. My question is that, let me talk about a little bit about technology. So currently, like a metaverse is kind of buzzwords for the community. And what do you think about the potential virtual event, virtual Olympic or something in, I don't know, 2050 or 2100 in the future? And I think Olympians should gather one place to do the game, but the audience doesn't have to be gathering to one place to avoid pandemic situation or something. So what do you think about this possibility?
David, I guess this is your field now.
Well,
Virtual sporting
the
events.
virtual sporting events. Yeah. Virtual sporting events are kind of hard. And actually in sports tech, there are some games where they put telemetric equipment on race cars, and then in a game you can drive along with the same racers on the same course. So you're competing with them in real time. But for physical sports, it's a little bit harder. And I think we talked a little bit before what Tokyo was capable of doing with changing the IT structure in Tokyo was, so there's like 10,000 athletes, but there's a lot of other people too, right? So there's 10,000 people on the media side, and there's another 10,000 writers, and then there's like 7,000 or 8,000 people on the organizing committee. So those numbers can be reduced. Maybe bring the athletes together, but you don't need 4 or 5 people to work with them. So 2 athletes, fine. And then you just have 1 person doing it. And the other things can be done remotely. So it really reduces the footprint. And so that's a good chance for tech. So the athletes can still come together, but the people supporting it can be remote is a good way to handle that question.
More productive to have the games in one city at once?
To have one permanent Olympic location. So
Like 2020.
summer games forever in Los Angeles, and winter games forever in, I don't know, Innsbruck.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, that's a discussion. That's a discussion going on now that pick one city and do the Olympics there all the time. But will it capture the same imagination? Will it be as appealing if it's always in the same place? That's an answer I don't know.
Oh, it's an interesting question, I guess, that we need to solve in the future in a lot of ways, I guess. And again, thanks to the 3 of you for attending this panel and to providing your insight on what actually happened and your feelings on how the Olympics mean to all of us. So, and thanks to all of you for attending as well. Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.